We're going live today to discuss the Blake Campbell case from Greene County, Arkansas. It is a case where Blake died in a fire. Greene County still says that it's an open case, but they also say that he set the fire intentionally and it was an accidental death. So there are a lot of things going on with it. And I'm going to let Blake's mom, and I believe the dad might be joining too, discuss the case and what's going on with the case, because I feel like the best person to advocate for their child's case is the parent who knows the ins and outs of the case. So that's what we're doing today. So this is Blake's mom and dad. You guys can introduce yourselves.
I'm Deborah, and this is Blake's dad, Jim.
Hi,
so
Deborah.
we're out here in the vehicle. Hi. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, no problem. Okay, so you guys are Blake's parents, and so you can just start talking about the case whenever you get ready to.
So in 2019, he had been with this convicted felon, and the convicted felon, Demarius James, is saying that they're friends. I don't know how good of friends they were. He went to a house that we owned. We owned 4 houses at the time. Houses that we bought to fix and flip. Well, he took his siblings from the office that day, and he watched them while my husband and I, not Blake's dad, but my husband and I went for a run. And then we got a call from dispatch that he had, or not him, but that our house was on fire. And they asked if anybody was inside, and I said no, because it was a vacant house. We had bought it like around a month prior, and it was 30 minutes out of town into the country. So the only kind of anything that we had accomplished getting done on it was just outside cleanup work. And so when they asked me, I said, no, it's vacant. And then we went out to go watch this house burn, not knowing that my son was inside. And so while we were there, the investigators, the police, the sheriff's department was there, and they were talking about Demarius James. They said his name, and they said that he had made the call about the house explosion, because the house exploded. That was another thing. And so this house had no electricity turned on, no gas, no anything. We hadn't gotten around to that. And so when he said that, he said it was him and his brother. And when they told us his race, so we're thinking 2 black guys, you know. From the get-go, we were thrown off. And they never told us that it had been reported by this man that Blake was inside. So we didn't find that out until after midnight that night. So while we were there watching the house burn, I get a call from a text message from his phone. I thought it was him. It wasn't him. It was his wife. And she said the kids were ready to be picked up. And I said, okay, well, we're over here watching, the house is on fire. We're watching it burn. And when I get done and we leave here, I'll pick them up. So that's what I did. And when I got to, because he lived with he and his wife and their baby son, and she was pregnant also. They lived with Jim, Blake's biological dad at this time.
Right.
So I went, and when I went to pick up the kids, Blake wasn't there. and I asked her, oh, and I have to say, while we were communicating, messaging, I said that the police are saying that this Demarius James was a suspect in this. And I told her all that. And she never told me, hey, this is Deshauna, this, you know.
She was communicating like she was Blake.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I had no idea up until the time that I picked up the kids that Blake wasn't watching them. And so I asked her where he was, and she said she didn't know, just that she left with a friend. So I didn't worry. I just thought, okay, and then she took over watching them. I mean, that's happened before. So, well, when Jim got off of work a couple hours later and he called me, he asked me, where's Blake? I didn't know. And so he said, well, something's not right. And he can tell his story on that part. And he said he's going to get to the bottom of it. He'd call me back. And a couple minutes later, he called me back. And he said, Deborah, Shauna had Blake's phone. You were communicating with Shauna. And so it was still not making sense. But at that time, we realized that Blake was missing. Pretty much, you know, we still didn't put it together, and we all set out to go find him, look for him. We weren't very far down the road whenever Shauna called Jim and said that DJ's girlfriend, which is his ex-girlfriend today, they had just got through communicating. I don't know if they did. Do you remember if they messaged or if they called each other? Anyway, Crystal.
That as far as I know, they messaged each other.
Okay, so they messaged each other, and Crystal told Deshauna through message that DJ told her that Blake was dead in the house. So from there, Jim went out to the house, and I went to the sheriff's department to report what we just had been told. And we left from there, went out to the house with Jim. And then while we were there, the investigator said that they needed to talk to Deshauna, Blake's wife. And I said, I would go with them. And he said, no, go back to the sheriff's department and we will meet you up there. And so that's what we did. It seemed like we were waiting forever. And while we were there, and we were talking to them, because at that time they had made it back to us. They went to talk to her first. And then they were talking to us. And then Jim called me and said, Deborah, you guys need to get a lawyer. Shauna is saying that Blake went to this house to purposely burn it down for my husband and I.
Right.
For insurance money. And that's where it went from there. I was still trying to process it all. I didn't understand what was going on because just her telling us that she didn't know where he was. And I want to add that earlier that night, whenever Jim was at work, she was also messaging with him as Blake, and didn't tell Jim even that she had his phone. And then when I picked up the kids, I tried calling him, and she had his phone the whole time. She did not answer. You know, it just...
Was it normal for him to leave his phone behind, or did he normally just always have his phone with him?
It was not normal for him to leave his phone behind. And every time that Shauna did have his phone, though, she always let me know. Right. You know, hey, this is Shauna, whatever, you know. And she didn't do that this time. And she said, and we asked her that too, you know, why she had the phone. And she said, well, because her baby, they had a 1-year-old at the time, had threw hers into the toilet and broke it. With her being pregnant, Blake didn't want to leave her without a form of communication because they didn't have a vehicle either. He had the only vehicle. So that was what she said, why he left her with the phone, his phone. And she also said that she originally said that he left with his friend. The baby was out of milk, to go get milk for the baby, and then he never came back. So, of course, that story has changed today. She's saying now that they weren't supposed to get milk until he came back. So she hasn't told me then why he left, you know, but it's kind of changed up a little bit. So it's been, okay, because this happened in 2019. I believe that the law enforcement investigators of Greene County had gotten tunnel vision, pretty much. I think that they went with her story and they didn't investigate anything. Nothing. They had Demarius James in questioning. We recently got the videos on his investigation where they questioned him. And they caught him in several lies. And they didn't ask him questions we felt like they should have asked him. They found gasoline on his boots, on his person, and they asked him about that. And he said Blake bought the gas, or got the gas. Not bought, got the gas. They didn't ask him who bought the gas. You know, just questions that we couldn't figure out why they didn't ask him. Where did you buy the gas? Just what time of day was it? You know, I just don't feel like they really investigated it very much. And they had Shauna in there. We saw her video.
Well, because, okay, if they say, okay, she's saying, Deshauna's saying that he set the fire on purpose, so they can close the case and their hands are clean and then they don't have to put any work into it, right? So that's probably
Right.
why they leaned that direction, because it made their job so much easier.
Right. That's
I mean,
what we think too.
a lot of parents wouldn't have the courage to stand up to them, unfortunately, and they would have dropped it, you know, back in 2019.
Yeah, and we've been fighting them for nearly 4 years to do something, and they won't do anything. We've investigated my son's case pretty much on our own. I mean, everything we've gotten on our own. And Jim, because I'm in Tennessee, I live in Tennessee, 4 hours away from here, and this is another thing that the rumor is going around. I wanted to tell you about. When we bought our house in Tennessee, we went into contract on it 3 weeks before this happened. Went into contract. And a week and a half after we had Blake's funeral, we closed on this house in Tennessee. So our plans to move to Tennessee was already made before this happened. And my husband, he and I were real estate agents, and he has his home business, and he had his Tennessee real estate license a whole year before this happened. And we had been searching for a few months for a place here, and Blake was going to move with us, Blake and his family, his little family. And so that was coming up. Our closing on our house was coming up. So what I think is that, in my personal, just looking at it, the window was closing for them to do, to do something. But they're saying that we moved from Tennessee or to Tennessee from Arkansas running away from this.
Right.
And that's just not the case. And we have where we went into contract on the home before this happened. So, but that's what I think, that the window was getting, they're running out of time. And they knew
the house,
he was fixing to move in.
So the house that was vacant, you were selling? Was it being sold? The one that was vacant?
We were planning to renovate it and either keep it for a rent house or to turn around and sell. Yeah. And we hadn't gotten anything done with it. We didn't even have any utilities turned on at that time. And that's another thing that Jim can tell you the story better on it, because he's the one that uncovered this part about the insurance and what the fire chief put down on his report as far as what is it? Contents.
Yeah, the
contents, and what he dollar amount put it in on paper that everything was worth. We paid $35,000 for this house. Okay, Jim, you want to tell them this?
Hey, if I can, let me kind of start back at the beginning of it just a little bit.
Okay.
Like you said, on June the 14th, 2019, my son was with this suspect, Demarius James. He was a convicted felon on parole on the day even at this time. But 2 days before my son's death, or our son's death, this suspect, Demarius James, had got into some type of trouble on June the 12th, 2 days before our son's death. And my son, Demarius James, was trying to contact him, and I have the text messages, or we have text messages showing all of it. But my son was trying to help this man. But this suspect, Demarius James, that was with my son that night, was in the truck, my son's truck, with him. And when the house exploded and all that, Demarius James claims he was sitting in the truck, never seen nothing what happened to our son. He claimed he was playing on his phone and sitting within 20 feet of the house in the truck and everything. Then they are a constable, James Shipman, for the Greene County Sheriff's Department, claims he's seen a brown Ford truck sitting in the driveway at the crime scene that day, or that morning and later of the evening. There were 6 different people seen a brown Ford truck at that crime scene. Everybody seen a brown Ford truck. Okay. Even a friend of Deborah and her husband's drove by and seen a brown Ford truck sitting there. And he was the first one that seen the house that was actually on fire. He drove down the highway and seen a blaze through the window of the house. And it was empty, vacant house, like she said. And he seen the brown Ford truck sitting there with the door open, nobody in the truck. Well, he tried to call Deborah and her husband and everything, and said that at the edge of the hills there, he couldn't get reception on his phone. So he had to drive down the road a little ways and to get reception to call them that their house was on fire. This was probably around 7, we're guessing at 7:30, the best we could tell with everybody. And we talked to the eyewitness several times, and he swears that he's seen the brown Ford truck sitting in the driveway with the door open up next to the house. Everything, and that's the brown Ford truck that Demarius James, the suspect, was supposed to be sitting in with out there with my son. Okay, well, that happens, and he's sitting in the truck, and he says the house explodes. while he's sitting in the truck. Well, he claims he gets out and runs around, and he steps in gasoline. And but then he states in the report that the house exploded. He's seen a flash, uh, and but there was no doubt the house exploded because there was glass debris blowed, 70, 80 feet across the yard. Uh, in the but but several people seen the brown Ford truck at this crime scene. Okay, now the crime at the crime scene in the brown Ford truck, all through the reports, they're saying brown Ford truck, brown Ford truck. Even Sergeant Weber states, I have found a brown Ford truck at the hospital because the suspect did have some burns on his face and his arm a little bit. But they're saying that they took pictures at the hospital of a brown Ford truck. And they continuously say brown Ford truck, everybody, the eyewitnesses, everything. Our son's truck was charcoal gray with a black hood. No, it wasn't brown. But no one, they've lost a brown Ford truck. They won't even talk about it. We've got text messages that I sent to the sheriff's department telling them about the brown Ford truck. I had a meeting with them about the brown Ford truck. They won't even talk about the brown Ford truck at all and everything. But the brown Ford truck, and we looked at our son's truck. There was no glass. There was no debris in it. There was no damage for the house blowed up on my son's truck. So this brown Ford truck, if they won't talk about, if they claim they've seen, we feel that the brown Ford truck may have blood or some type of evidence or that's still in the truck that we may could if they it's someone that is trained can find the evidence that my son's truck wasn't used at this. Uh, but I've talked to several law enforcements. There was nobody in the Greene County Sheriff's Department in Arkansas that was qualified to work a house explosion where a dead body, or they had found a body. And then when they did locate our son's body, the only thing that was left of our son was his torso in his skull, with the back of his head caved in and his brain exposed. He had a major trauma to the back of his head. His arms, his legs, and his teeth were completely missing. He wasn't there. And at no time did the Greene County Sheriff's Department request any other agency, not even the city, to come in and assist in this. I talked to the fire chief that worked the fire. Uh, he stated that when they found the body or the torso in the head, that his body had been covered, looked like it had been covered up with a love seat or a couch. This house had been stripped on the inside so it could be all the carpenter work done, and the carpet, everything was missing out of the house. There was no furniture. There was nothing. Uh, and I'm going to jump around a little bit on this right here, but the fire chief that has that worked the case made the report, and that he estimated the value of the property, and everything, the house and the damage, at $50,000. Well, I requested the Freedom of Information Act and got some information, but the way we were told, the insurance company will not really investigate a case if it's not more than $150,000. So now the fire chief put down on his report, his original report is $50,000. Well, when I finally got the Freedom of Information Act letter from the fire department and the county prosecuting attorney. They had changed it from 50,000 to 150,000 because, but but they're showing 100,000 for the property, $50,000 or $50,000 in contents of the house. Okay, they changed it $100,000 up to, because that way the insurance company, if someone filed a claim on it, the insurance company would investigate it for the Greene County Sheriff's Department. The Greene County Sheriff's Department never investigated it at all.
So they changed
the fire chief
have to do their jobs, but they were going to let the insurance company do it for them.
No. Right, and that's the reason they upped it $100,000 to get the insurance company interested in it. They give, I want to say, $35,000 for the property, the house, and everything. It was worth more to write off as a taxes, a loss on taxes, than it was to claim the insurance money, and that's what the attorney even said. But the fire chief, I haven't even discussed it with him about, but I did tell him that he better look at his estimate and everything, his report, because it had been altered and changed and everything. And he said that he couldn't say what really happened that night, but if he was subpoenaed to court, he would have to tell the truth. And he said that when they found the body, that there was major trauma to the back of his head, but he couldn't tell me what all happened because he has to work with the Greene County Sheriff's Department, and he can't tell what really happened. But if he did get subpoenaed to court, he would have to tell what he's seen. And now, the night that the fire chief and his crew worked this fire, that wasn't his location. That wasn't his zone that he was supposed to work. The fire department that actually worked this area, they wouldn't take the call because they found out that there was a death it occurred, and they didn't want it on the record.
Right.
And then
I have to charge my phone.
But anyway, after this was done, I asked the fire chief. I said, "Well, can I, or in our family, throw like a barbecue or something for the fire department, show them our things?" And they said no. County prosecutor doesn't want us to do that because they don't want the fire department to be associated with our son the way it had been investigated. Yeah. Now, from that, I want to jump back again, back right after this and everything. The day that our son was body was found in the house and everything, with just his torso in there. In our own investigation and everything, we found out on the day after our son's death, well, the suspect had left the crime scene and drove into town. And when the fire department or the police department investigated him, he lied to them and told him he went to a different location, 2 or 3 different locations in town once he got there. And it's in the interview on the CDs we have. But we later even found out that our son, before this that was taken out to the house, that they had beat him in a house in the city, in the Perryville city limits, and some women was involved in this and seen it, where our son was beat up and everything, And the suspect, Demarius James, told this woman she better clean up the blood and everything just in case the law comes by to check this house. And if they were blood splattered on the walls, the ceiling, and the floor, and if they better clean it up or he would hurt them too and everything. Now, I'll give that to the sheriff's department, the state police, the state prosecuting attorney, the county attorney. Nobody has asked us about this. Captain Tony Williams, that's over at the time, was with the Greene County Sheriff's Department, was the head of the Criminal Investigation Department. I text him over 20 texts telling him that I had an eyewitness that seeing him come in from the fire that had blood on and bleach spots on his blue jeans, and that he had changed his blue jeans and before the law found him and everything, and that they caught him driving my son's truck and everything. But the Demarius James had changed his blue jeans and put on another pair, and he took his pants off, the ones that he took off, and took them to his next door neighbor's house and hid them behind the washer and dryer. And I tell the law enforcement, I've told the sheriff's department, I've told the city police, I've told the state police, I've told the prosecutors, city and the county, and the state prosecuting attorneys, and sent them copies of the text where I'm telling about the blue jeans being the suspects changing his clothes. I got texts where I'm asking them to come with me so that we could get the eyewitnesses' statements. Be asking them, the state police and the sheriff's department, to come with me and help me get the report. Not one time in almost 4 years has anybody ever mentioned this. Now, the captain of Tony Williams, he sent me a text back one time when I was telling him about the blue jeans, about the suspect tampering with evidence, hiding evidence with this, that he said, I have forwarded all this information to the Arkansas State Police. The Arkansas State Police has no record of him ever reporting anything to them in their computers. Nowhere. And then we'll back over to something else. We have the suspect, Demarius James, his mother-in-law and his wife reported here, and we have it right here and everything, that he beat her with he's a convicted felon on parole, has a firearm, a pistol, and beats her in by the city police department, that they in her report, and they have it here, that he beat her with a pistol, had bruises all over her body, and threatened killing her. And he threatens her if she tells anything about what he's done and what he did to our son that night. In that, if she reports anything that he did, he would kill her. And it's in a report from the city police department. The city police department give me this report, and it shows his charges and everything. And they claim or told her that she fill out an order for protection before they could get involved in it. Now, this man is a convicted felon on parole, has firearms, and they can't go and do anything, they claim, and that's what they tell her. And this man has, since this, he has stabbed a man in the city limits, stabbed at him with an orange-handled steak knife, and stabbed the guy, and the guy throwed his hand up, and it cut his thumb, and as they said, his thumb dangled down and everything. This same guy held a Mexican guy hostage for a few days and beat on him. And the guy had to, so that they put fear in him so he wouldn't report where Damaris had, the suspect had beat him. And then since then, we have a Sidney Howard where I think he's a 19-year-old boy. He beat him with a pistol and put him in ICU, and the boy lost his spleen and all this and that. And he was charged with a little bit of something with that, but he was let go. But this suspect, Damaris James, was allowed to go from county to county, state to state, and he bragged the suspect that he goes and buys drugs for the sheriff's department and the city police department, and he sells the drugs for them. And that he claims he's a confidential informant, and that they allow him to get by with whatever he wants to do. And then I want to jump back again to his wife and everything. He held her hostage and beat her up, raped her, and sodomized her. Yeah, it's his girlfriend now and everything. Oh, and now and she reports it. She reports it. They turn the table on her and tell her, well, it's her fault she got raped. Well, then I'm going to jump to another thing about his girlfriend. Our eyewitness. Some of the suspect, Damaris James's friends, if you want to call them friends, took his girlfriend and kept her for days hostage and taking turns raping her and beating her. And this has been reported to the sheriff's department, the city police. We have over 50 certified letters, us reporting this to all the law enforcement, and not one person. Deborah has got the woman on one of the eyewitnesses on a recorder telling what happened. I have reported that to the state prosecuting attorney, the sheriff's department, the state police, the county department. Not one person in going on 4 years has ever asked to see or hear the recording. Not one person has asked for any evidence. Here is and I'm going to jump back to the fire department and everything. This is a picture of the ashes where the fire occurred. They're saying there's $50,000 worth of contents in that house. You don't see a bed springs. You don't see a stove, a refrigerator, pots, pans, nothing, nothing that shows that there was any contents in the house. And they could see it. I've talked to several people in law enforcement. They could say they tell you that you could tell by this fire, the ashes, if there was no contents of this house, and it was something that was trying to lure the insurance company investigate. So they and to the truck, we know pretty much what truck was used and who owns the truck. But we have nobody that we can trust to get that information. Everything that is covered up is the state police, special agent Anthony Hill, where people call him Hill, called me up on the phone and stated he had talked to me 4 times, which was a lie. And I told him it was. I told him, I said, if you have called me 4 times about son's case, I said, you ought to have a record of when you called me and where and how and what it was about. Well, he said, no, he didn't come up with evidence like that. But he told me the eyewitness had seen the house on fire with the brown Ford truck sitting in the driveway with the door open. He called the state police, called me up and said, hey, that wasn't true. There was no one seen, eyewitness seen it. It's I, because I have talked to the eyewitness myself several times. He says, yes, there was. He remembers it just like it was yesterday, what he seen. Uh, and they have covered this up. They're trying to cover for each other. Uh, in the law enforcement, that in the state police, all of them at the time that my son or our son was killed, murdered, however you want to say it, at that time, that's in that same time frame of that year, they was already the sheriff's department and the state police was under criminal charges themselves and everything. All the state police and the sheriff's department in different cases, and they were charged. Were being and they were charged and everything. The attorney general's office charged each one of them for different things, and they're corrupt. They're corrupt.
Sean DJ's tattoo.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when this was after, just a few months after our son's death, well, this Demarius James uh, goes and has a picture of our son's name all the way down the side of his face, the FU faint sign over my son's name, and right there that is. And now the Greene County Sheriff's Department said, well, that's a sign of respect. And but Captain Jackson with the Greene County Sheriff's Department stood there in the office or Sheriff's Department, told me, he said, well, that's a sign of respect. And I have talked with the FBI about that. I have talked to all types of law enforcement, and they have they say that's a disgrace to any family and to the law. To put something on their face, which we know that tattoos is, has even been to the Supreme Court. It's hard to say what a tattoo is, but all of this in the text messages we have, and then after this happened back last year, Demarius James on parole, a convicted felon, goes to Clear Lake, California, and breaks in on a woman, rapes her, sodomizes her child, and mutilates her child. And he goes to prison. The Greene County Sheriff's Department and the city police department, Pergo Police Department, get him out of prison. The suspect, Demarius James, claims that they give him immunity for to not tell what happened with Blake's case, to cover them. And so he's running around free, or was the last we heard. But Ted got him out of prison because I had an attorney that had called the prison and everything, and they were going to have our suspect re-questioned in California. And as soon as they found that out, they got Demarius James out of there. But and the other reporters and stuff has checked everything out that we have said. In a fire marshal that I know, an ex-fire marshal that I know, told me this as soon as this happened. He said to make sure you go out there and you take some quart paint cans, big ones, and go out there and take ashes out of each room of that house and save them, because he said you will need them, because he said they're going to try to cover this up, and they have. Now I have friends that their family are law enforcement with the city police, the Greene County Sheriff's Department, that told me it was best if we just don't ask any more questions. That which I live in the town there by everybody, that I was told that I need to get another place to live and not let nobody know where I'm staying at, because they're going to retaliate for what we're doing. And even here from the Frischman, the state prosecuting attorney, I wrote them 7 letters. The 7 letters disappeared. But anyway, the state police, I talked to Major Mark Hollingsworth, and they conveniently found the prosecuting attorney himself is telling me, put it right here if you can, right here. Uh, uh, in the meantime, please take care and remain safe. Remain safe. Now, why would a prosecuting attorney send a letter in telling me to remain safe?
Yeah, and I also want to say that Marshall's case, Crystal, DJ's ex-girlfriend, is related to Marshall. Marshall Rice.
Right.
So her mother and Marshall are cousins.
So there's a connection there.
Yes.
Where
the
is
story?
I was just gonna ask, where is Demarius James now?
Nobody knows because they supposedly got him out of town.
Right.
But now the word on the street, and I don't know if it's to be true, but some of the family members that law enforcement is that they have members in law enforcement there was told that the reason that Mr. Price was beat up was that he tried to get him a confidential informant, and that he refused. And so that's the reason that they were trying to be and bluffing him to try to be a confidential. And he wouldn't be one. And that's how true that is. Being told.
Well, they already tried to cover it up. Also, we were told that the department said that Marshall had a heart attack. What?
Yeah,
right? They didn't tell about him getting beat.
Yeah. And
that came out later.
And on the Mr. Price case and everything, the hit the emergency button for 6 hours while Marshall Price let him bleed and unconscious for hours to get him help, and they wouldn't come. They took 6 hours, which had other reports too and everything. But this is corrupt. This law enforcement is corrupt, and this is not the first time that things like this has happened. We have found bodies in Greene County, in the same county where police have spare bodies and stuff. We call in there. And there are other bodies that's around, but even the reason they say anything about what they know about law enforcement and everything, it's crooked. It's a cover up. It's a cover up, and all this time they won't return your phone call. If there wasn't nothing to hide, they would sit down and hide. Well, this is what we have done. This is what we have done. If you have any evidence, and we'll investigate it and everything. And they won't. They won't investigate. They come with it and talk to them face to face with us, and they back. And it's they're covering this up because they didn't investigate it. They, first of all, no one certified or qualified to work in a house or an explosion. that's something that the ATF has to do, you know, and everything. And they're not qualified to get forensic evidence and everything. And now, nowhere, not one time have they said where the brown Ford truck's at. And they claim they had a hauler come up to the hospital parking lot and load the brown Ford truck up. This, like I said, the sergeant claims he found the brown Ford truck sitting in the hospital parking lot. The Patrick Linderman was assigned officer, Lieutenant Patrick Linderman, and he claims he took pictures of gas jugs in the back of the truck. But the Greene Sheriff's Department is saying that, and this, they're speculating this. They have no proof they were that my son carried gasoline and put in the house, brought the gas jugs back out to the truck, took a cigarette lighter and lit the fire, come back out, made the cigarette lighter on the console of his truck. And that's what they're saying happened.
And then went back in and got himself killed.
Yeah, and went in. And then back again to Tony, or Anthony, we call him Tony, we call him Tony Hill, calls a woman in New Jersey that's, I think it's close to about 1,200 miles from here, that he calls this woman up, that she's kind of checking in on the case herself, and he calls her up and tells her a bunch of lies. Well, hey, and all this, Blake's mother and stepdad and the mother, his wife, is causing. And why would a state police CID officer be calling someone in New Jersey to be discussing a regular individual with this case? And then the state police, the sheriff's department, is telling us the county, the sheriff's department says it's the state police has our case. But the police say, no, we don't have it. And then go back and forth. I've probably made 100 phone calls back and forth and everything. And then I believe it was on Thanksgiving, around the Thanksgiving, that I text Captain Tony Williams and tell him, well, I hope you have a good Thanksgiving, because you get to be with your family, and I, because I have Tony Williams' wife. I don't know for the city. I understand it for the city, not the county, anything. She's on her husband's county sheriff's home. Texas tells me he won't be around her husband, blah, blah, this and that. And that he did turn our son's case over to the Arkansas State Police. Now, she's not allowed as a county official, because she's not associated with the sheriff's department at all. And she gets on the phone back in March about our son's case and what the sheriff's department is doing. That's illegal. That breaks the law, and for her to be on the sheriff's department and her as a city official, it's illegal. It's illegal. And I could go on the things that we have reported, and nobody, they try to cover it up. I called to the city fire department to keep certified letters to him. They will not return a message, because I asked them what was the chain of command for the fire department making a report and what needs to be done on a case that where it in that we have a fire chief report that happened at a case, and someone altered it $100,000. That's something's wrong. something's wrong.
Right.
The alter, and then I filed the Freedom of Information Act through an attorney. They James Shipman, that was the constable that worked the fire, he uh, made the report, and I talked to him several times on the phone. He said it looked like to him at where my son was at the his body was found, that it was a murder cover up. Well, I tried to get his report. It disappeared. They won't show what he said. It's covered up. All the reports with the eyewitnesses that we have or that we know of personally that tried to get the law, the county prosecutor, state prosecuting attorney, all of them at all levels of law in our legal system uh, to come and help us get this. Uh, it have all received copies of what I'm saying. We have proof. We have evidence. We have now suspect Demarius James, his wife or girlfriend got so many threats that she had to leave Greene County because she's scared to death. And she has a right to be. She has been threatened so many times that they would kill her if she told what she told.
And she's told us that too. She's MIA now.
Okay, now this Demarius James beat her up. The suspect beat his girlfriend up so many times. I'm not talking about once, twice, but almost a weekly thing. He would beat her up. Now, law enforcement, when he reported it, and her mom reported this, they come out the next day patting him on the back and visiting with him at his house. And this is it's a known fact. The suspect had one of my son's cars driving it around after my son's death. Nobody wants to talk about that. His family says that Demarius would drive my son's car around and found with the wrong tags on it, and they'd stop him and let him go, and then stop him and let him go several times. And finally, they took the tag off the truck. And then when we get back to his wife's, my son's wife's, they threatened killing my son. And my son went up and we made a report about it and everything. And we got something back from the state prosecuting attorney saying, well, there wasn't enough evidence, to go after them. It's a cover up. They have people selling drugs for them that they're covering for. It's the state police you cannot trust that's locally here or in Jonesboro, Arkansas. It's going to have to be somebody from the FBI. I called the ATF in Little Rock to tell them that about the suspect Demarius James having a pistol, owning a pistol with his name engraved on it, and he had beat his wife or his girlfriend up with it and several other people with a pistol. We have the police report. He laughed. We have from the sheriff's department. We have suspects, even the suspect, everybody. Channel 8 News saying the house exploded. Everybody. So that's an explosion. And then possible in the by the sheriff's department's own report, arson. And
I want to tell him about Region 8 also.
Yeah, that Region 8, we have contacted them several times. They will not let us tell our side of the story on Channel 8 News.
They let DJ tell his side.
Yeah, they let Demarius James get on there and brag that he was a hero.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to save my son. But he didn't tell them about the part where he just beat up his girlfriend and with a firearm, and he was a convicted felon, or none of the stuff that happened. But he sat there with my son, from what they're saying, or what the eyewitnesses saying, that he sat in the truck while everything happened, and he didn't see nothing, nothing, and he never seen my son drink any gas jugs, or, or whatever. But when they Demarius James that night, he had gasoline on his person. On him. It's in the report that uh, he had it. They smelled it and everything.
They also said that they knew he was wearing the same clothes as he wore out to the fire. Yeah, the house explosion and we know today that is not true.
Yeah,
he went home and changed before he went to the hospital.
Well, I mean, there's no way you could tell, not just by looking, that someone has the same clothes on that they had 3 hours ago if you didn't see the person.
And his old clothes and I have it on recording, to have blood, bleach stains, and rips.
You said earlier that he stepped
cut out on us
on his way to the going into the house too.
Yeah.
How convenient is that? Like, oops, I stepped in gas. That's a major red flag.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And how does a house explode? And I don't get none of what he's saying.
Now, the same day at this, the house exploded, Demarius James, we have got text messages that we have come up with where he's talking about TNT explosives. And I've been in the Marine Corps for quite a few years, or have been in the Marine Corps, and I taught and worked with explosives. TNT is a pretty dangerous explosive. Any explosion is dangerous if it's handled wrong. But he was talking about bombs and TNT explosive the same day that the house blowed up. And I reported that to the sheriff's department. I showed them the text. That don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. And when they, Demarius said that they had stopped and got gasoline, the interview that they done in an investigation with Demarius James, they never asked Demarius James, where did you stop and get gas out? How much gas did y'all stop and buy if you stopped by and bought gasoline? What was it put in? None of those questions were asked. And I talked with an investigator about that. They said, no, they wouldn't have, because they were trying to protect him, and they didn't want to associate him with the gas or the jug in any way. And then the next day after the house exploded, and they found my son, I went out checking with the gas stations that was in that area. There's a convenience store out in the country. It's called Miss Addie's, out by Walcott Park. And I told her, I asked her, I said, was anybody come up in a brown Ford truck with this getting gasoline in jugs or anything? And she said, yes. She said, they was 2 black guys come up and got gas in jugs, but they were in a car. And she said they really acted strange, and one of them was just plumb spooky, just the way he talked and acted. She said, I remember that. Well, I told Captain Tony Williams just over the CID department at the Greene County Sheriff's Department. He come back. I told him that. He said he checked it out. It had nothing to do with it, whether he even did or not. But they had it on camera, whoever this was that she was talking about. But he told me to stop investigating it because I could mess the case up. And he come by and told me, said, hey, don't be investigating it on yourself, but by yourself. But they didn't. They didn't. For weeks, I know they didn't. And then I talked to the fire department in the Perryville City, and said, yes, they rode out there with Captain Tony Williams, that's over the CID department. We drove out there at the crime scene, but we never got out. And they wouldn't tell me what they had talked about, but they never got out and investigated anything. But they were waiting. And I asked them, I said, did you call in any fire marshals or anybody like that to investigate? They said, no. Hey, we're waiting for the insurance company to come out and we're going to meet with them, and we're going to work together on this to investigate it. Well, that rocked on for over a month and everything, and they still hadn't. But like I say, we have the ashes from each one of the rooms and everything. That's where our son was, where they found his torso. We have the pictures of his torso. If I could show you that but which I probably can't, but because Deborah hadn't even seen it. But it's just this torso.
Mm-hmm.
This removed the legs, his arms, in a charred body that's unrecognizable, other than a torso with a head.
Well,
and that's the only thing that's left. And the crime lab is saying that they couldn't, soot inhalation, however you say it. My son was alive when he was being burnt.
Mm.
And now, how did he get what it looks like, or what we found out so far, is that it looks like that they had beat him up in town before this, put him in a couch or a love seat, the padding in the cushions that soak up the blood, and carried him out there and put him in the house, and blowed the house up. Now the gasoline, but they were. He did have some jugs in the back of his vehicle, but earlier that day, he was using a high-pressured washer and a weed eater. A high-pressured washer just takes, the one we have, it takes straight gasoline. So you had to have a jug for straight gasoline. The weed eater, you had to mix oil in it to run it. So right. That's two different jugs, and he was using them, and they would have been gasoline in the back of his truck, and them jugs, it would have smelled of gasoline because, but they're saying he carried the gas in there. Nobody ever seen him touch a gas jug. Demarius James, not one time, has ever said that he's seen him use a gas jug or whatever. But I'm going to jump to something else. His wife claims that she knows and texts Deborah, our son, that she knows that Demarius was pouring gasoline in the house. Mm-hmm. Now, how does our son's wife know what Demarius was doing? We have the text.
She just recently told us that. So, little by little, but she hasn't reported that to investigators.
Does she still have contact with Demarius?
Well, she's still friends with him. Now, let me tell you this.
On social media, you can see it.
Well, let me, I don't know if I can say this. Can you cut it out if it's wrong? If I can't say this? Or will it be going like?
I mean, it could.
If you say anything, you have to say SA.
They could.
Something.
Oh, okay. Well, now. Oh, okay. Well, let me say it.
Say relations or something.
Okay.
Or instead of like the R word, you should have to say grape.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. Demarius James, and my daughter-in-law's mom, were can I say making porn pictures.
Oh yeah.
And selling them.
Mm.
Oh, okay. Then our daughter-in-law was having relationships or videos with Demarius's friend, the suspect.
Phone messages.
Phone pictures, nude pictures of each other.
Yeah.
Now this is the people that that was involved in our son's death that she didn't want at the funeral. But now, just within months after that, there are nude things going on back and forth to each other, and them being trying to sell them on the internet or however they do it. And this is something's bad wrong.
And she said that she had never had Demarius around the kids. I found a message where he's thanking her for letting him see the kids.
And we have pictures of where my son's mother-in-law, is that right? Mother-in-law?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Her mother-in-law, his wife's mom.
Okay, his wife's mom was babysitting their baby, and she's wanting them to hurry up and come back because they let her babysit them. And when they get back, the baby has his, if I said bruises, but red marks, and the baby screaming and hollering when they walk in the door, and they're taking pictures of this abuse on this kid. And we thought that it had been reported to DHS about this, and it never was. And now the daughter-in-law is saying that it didn't happen, but we have Texas. We have, what is it, Facebook, or what is it?
Yeah, Facebook messages.
Facebook messages where it's telling what happened.
Well, Blake sent to us.
When
this happened.
Yeah, the pictures of the baby and his wife holding the baby with the big red marks where he'd been hit on his face and on his shoulder and his arms and stuff. And none of this.
Well, he didn't want his mother-in-law around the baby. And he made this very clear. A couple weeks before he died, Shauna and Blake were into it. I was over at your house that night. And he said that she could go around her parents all she wanted to. She could move in with them for all he cared. But that he wasn't taking his kids. She wasn't taking his kids around that woman, around her mother. Well, recently, after his death, she moved in with me. One of the reasons why she moved in with me, and I have all this on message, her mother was having communications with Demarius James. They got into it over that. She tried to convince her to let Demarius see the boys. She wasn't for that. Well, she stayed with me for a couple months. Then anytime that something like this happened and the kids were in danger, I wanted them with me.
Right.
I put aside whatever I was feeling to keep my grandkids safe. And she'd stay a couple months, then she'd go back home. And the second time she moved in with me, it was because her mother had, and I have this on messages too, her mother had yelled at their youngest baby, at the one that Blake never got to meet. She was pregnant with at the time. He was a year old. He had broke something of Shauna's mom's, and her mom just went irate on him, started cussing him, yelling at him, a 1-year-old. He was so terrified and scared, he went to the back room and cried himself to sleep. And her mother's husband, Shauna's dad, backed her mom up. Like, she had a right to do this to a baby. So this is one of the reasons why we're fighting for grandparent rights today, too. It's just what could happen to them if something was to ever happen to Shauna, even. We have to fight for these kids.
But here is word from Shauna, our daughter-in-law's, is stating, I know Blake had lied, but when trying to figure out what happened, but anyways, this is where Shauna is changing her story about what she told the sheriff's department about Blake being hard to burn the house. Well, the house that Shauna told that they burnt was a house out at Lake, not Beach Grove. And the one that Shauna was telling about that they were burnt was almost a $200,000 house. Her and her some of her family thought they were going to get a bunch of insurance money because Blake had got killed. Because when I talked to Shauna before that night, since I got off from work, she didn't know where Blake was at all. And I asked her several times, "You know where Blake?" No, I don't know where he's at. He left to get milk, and I don't know where he's at. So I thought he might have went to the gym to work out. So I drove to some of them gyms around in town. But she then she turns around within 2 hours when Tony Williams talked to her, and they come up with, well, hey, about the insurance money. Well, then it started out, well, it was 1,000, then it was 1,500, then it was 2,000, and the story changed and got bigger as it went. And then I go to Captain Tony Williams that for the Greene County Sheriff's Department, and I tell him, I said, hey, here is where Shauna is saying that it's that she's changed her story. He calls her back up there, and I have the CD where they interviewed her. She's in the interview room, and Captain Tony Williams, his brother works up there at the jail where they was doing this interview, or the police station. His brother, now I'm told it's his brother, and I'm pretty sure it is, walks by when they're interviewing her, waving and winking, at them, and motioning and grinning and waving while they're doing the investigation and everything. But when I told Captain Tony Williams about Shauna changing her story, he did call her back up there and everything, and asked her, has her story changed, or is everything still the same? And she sat there and told him, no, everything's the same, and laughed and smiling just like it wasn't and laughing and carrying on. But that's not what she told everybody else. She told Deborah. She texted Deborah and told her, hey, that she knows now that what she understood was not what happened. But she wouldn't tell the law. She right now, even we have the text where she's saying that she knows Damaris James was pouring gas in the house. She has not called no one and told them, law enforcement, hey, I know that Damaris James is pouring gas in the house. She's not telling that. She's misleading the law enforcement. And it's not right. Deborah buys the kids presents for Christmas. She puts on there even her son Blake to his sons, hey, his name on there. She gets on.
Well, I said Dad in heaven.
Well, Daddy,
yeah.
Okay. Well, then she gets upset with Deborah because we used our son's name. We're not allowed, if we talk to the kids, to use our son's name around the kids or mention him and everything. So then we had to hire an attorney to try to get the grandparents' rights, and we're battling that and everything. And that we don't go to court on that. So, but
I want to add that every time that Shauna lived with me, she said nothing but good things about Blake. He was wonderful. They were in love. This happened for a couple years. And then last year, she started saying when she moved back to Arkansas for good, because she got her own place, that's when more started coming out on how she really felt about him. She started saying that he was abusive to her, that he was mean, he cheated on her. Now today, he's crap.
Right.
So I just want to put that out there. She doesn't feel that, and DJ is the good guy. DJ was, a friend that is going through what we're going through. He's sad too because he lost his friend. This is how she looks at DJ today.
But she's
comment.
also was telling Deborah that
Sorry.
which,
You cut out on us.
Someone in the comments has a couple of questions. So they asked, have you hired a private investigator?
no, because I now I have talked to 2 or 3, but they're wanting close to $1,000 retainer fee up front, and then anywhere from $50 to $100 an hour to investigate it.
Right.
We can't really afford it right now.
Right. No, it's pricey for sure. Have you had a private autopsy done?
No, that's what we're we have talked about it, but we're hoping that someone, the state police or the FBI, will look at what we have to so that because even if we had the evidence of anything, they're not listening to us. They won't even look at what we have. Even if we had that, hey, the county prosecutor, the state prosecuting attorney that's all over all the attorneys is telling us that the state police reviewed the case and it and they didn't find that the sheriff's department that the way that they investigated showed any concerns.
And then another person asked, is Shauna's last name Gocher?
No, Mason.
No.
She has changed from Campbell back to her maiden name, Mason.
Also, someone else just asked, have the feds been contacted? Have you contacted the FBI to investigate?
Not as yet. And I did the ATF, and they same as called me a liar that this is not, it never happened. Now here is where I got with back in 2020 with Major Mark Hollingsworth with the Arkansas State Police. He was the head of the CID in Little Rock, the main headquarters, and he asked, sent word down for the state police to review this case. They couldn't investigate it, but they could review the case. But with all the things that we're telling you that we have, showing you in all the 50 certified letters, all the text messages to Captain Tony Williams from his wife to everybody. This is. Can you see it right there? What?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it says. Now this is from the office of the prosecuting attorney, from the state prosecuting attorney, and this is the letter that he wrote me back and everything on May the 2nd, 2020. I have spoke with the Arkansas State Police, Anthony Hill, and the Greene County Sheriff's Department, Detective Tony Williams. Okay, Tony Williams is not a detective anymore. He's a bailiff for the court. Okay.
So
I understand that the Sheriff's Department. Okay, it says, but anyway, it says, I understand that the Sheriff's Department investigated. The Arkansas State Police reviewed the sheriff's investigation and found no concerns. Now, they lost a brown pickup truck. They found a body or a torso and a head, no legs, no arms, no teeth, and the suspect's wife or girlfriend beat up, and it's in reports, and that's not a concern. How they about the gasoline, how the marriage swept to different houses, that's not a concern to them. They're saying that they found no concerns. And the Arkansas State Police returns the case to the sheriff's department. So they're saying they had the case. Okay, no one has discovered any new evidence. We've been giving them new evidence almost monthly that we have found. We found out about he was beat up in the house with the blood on the down in the walls. Sent it to them. They don't care. They're not. We've asked them about the Ford truck. That's not a concern. They have all they talk about is a brown Ford truck, and now our son's truck was charcoal gray with a black hood. That's two different trucks. And even the sheriff asked Captain Tony Williams, were they two trucks? Captain Tony Williams said he didn't know. He told the sheriff that. But there's a lot of concern about this case. Yet our son's wife states she knows that Damaris poured gas in the house and everything for the house to burn. Well, that's a concern to us, or it could be a concern to anybody. If you have a son or a child or a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister that someone beats up and then lets his friends take her for a week and beat on her and assault her, that's a concern to me. And they know all this, and they said that they found no concerns. How the sheriff's department, they never called anyone, any agency to assist in this case. Not even the city where all this started, where the blood is in the house, on the walls, in the ceilings, in the floor.
That's so these are messages that we
text messages.
Acquired
from witnesses.
Witnesses talking amongst themselves that we got. Somebody sent us. None of this has been checked out.
It says Tony Williams. This is to Tony Williams. Jim Campbell again, talking about me. The eyewitness tells the pastor Damaris James had on after the fire had blood spots of bleach and tore pants and a new. He put on another pair of pants before Damaris changed and put them on an older pair of pants and goes to the hospital. The station that we were told Dodger dog stories where that they supposed to have got the gas. The cameras at if they did stop and get gas, like he said, the station has cameras at Dodger Dog. It would show when they got out at the station. Cameras would show where they got out. How much they bought? Did he put it in the jugs? What they put it in? What their clothes had on? There's nothing about that. And I told you the video would show, but the bank, my son cashed a check right before this happened and everything, and had cash on him. His body burned up so bad they couldn't really tell if he had any cash on him or not. But several things, and then I got other texts where I'm asking Captain Tony Williams and the state police to come with me to investigate and talk to these eyewitnesses face to face. They wouldn't. They wouldn't do it. I've offered to take a polygraph test of what I have been told and what from everybody, and they won't respond back. But we've talked to the eyewitnesses to make sure they will tell their story and everything. But it's just a cover. I mean, it is so obvious. If they know or they had and done what they were supposed to have done, investigated like they said, even the state police at Little Rock said, "Hey, this is a cover-up," But they said we can't get involved unless the prosecutor, or a judge, or the sheriff is, or someone, or the coroner that request us to come in and help
Yeah.
If they can't
with it.
get
Now,
involved, what is their job? I thought that you would think that their job was to fix these situations with local police.
well, they say their job is only to assist, but they can't assist unless they're requested to come into the county. They cannot come into the county and investigate it without uh, the sheriff or a prosecutor or a coroner requested them to come in.
So this is what we're waiting to see from Snyder, what he does, because we're being told that Snyder has got his new CID on Blake's case.
That's the new sheriff, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The new sheriff.
But now the CID in Snyder was prior to him being sheriff and worked for the city police department. And the woman in CID officer that went out there with him, she already knows Damaris James. She already knows. She worked for CID for years there in the Perryville city limits. She already knows about Damaris. So we're asking people to investigate the case again that already is dealing with him and has dealt with him for years. This is nothing. I mean, we're all we're doing is dealing right back with some of the same people that has been letting Damaris go to county, state to state, beating up people, several people, and assault them. They know about it. They know about Damaris. CID handles that cases and everything. And so we're dealing with people that's already covered it up for him. And so we just got to let them do their thing. And I believe it was day before yesterday, I called the Arkansas State Police headquarters, CID. I called the Jonesboro office in Arkansas, a CID, even the lower branch. I called the mayor, and I called the Greene County Sheriff's Department. Not one person. Everybody, when I tell them who I am, they conveniently are not in the office or they're not in that day. And I've dealt with this for going on 4 years. They will not talk to me. I could go up to the mayor's office in town. He's either going to a meeting and walking out the door, or whatever. I could talk to the fire department in town, and they don't want to get involved. Nobody wants to get involved in it. The Greene County James Shipman, the constable that worked it, he's scared to death. He'll hang up just as soon as he finds out who I am. He won't talk to me or discuss it at all.
Yeah, and I want to add that Tony Hill told the lady in New Jersey that they never called in a fire marshal to investigate the case and Blake's case, and she said that she would talk to anybody about that. You know, if they investigated it and they needed to talk to her, she said that she would tell what they talked about.
We have her phone number. We talk, we discuss things with her all the time. And I'm telling you, somebody needs to look at what we have, what the lies that we have been told, and
all the proof and evidence that we've gathered over the years. This is the thing that is discouraging about Snyder, is if they're really wanting to investigate it, why haven't they told us what they're doing, and why haven't they asked us for what we have?
Right.
Nobody will come and look at what we have. And then we got letters from the state prosecuting attorney that's saying every one of them that he has turned this over to the Arkansas State Police. I got 3 letters from him over a period of time that he has reviewed. Reviewed by letters, but he can't, the state prosecuting attorney doesn't uh, investigate cases and everything. And here, if you can show this right here, uh, I sent them 7 letters, and they disappeared for months. And here's where the state prosecuting attorney at the time was Keith Chrisman and everything. It said, I received and reviewed your 7 letters containing over 40 pages complaining about the Greene County Sheriff's Department investigation of the Michael Blake Campbell case of 2014, 2019, his death, and by asking my office to investigate. I'm not. I just want him to read. I'm not asking nobody, but to hold someone responsible, to look at this. And it says 2 things. First, I'm sorry for the loss. I can't imagine your heartbreak or blah blah. Insult, personal about it, but anyway, my authority is limited in the prosecute. It doesn't investigate alleged. They're saying that they don't investigate alleged crimes or offenses or and everything, and neither investigate or decides claims made against law enforcement agencies. So I can't provide you with any relief. I am reporting your letter to the Arkansas State Police and the Greene County Sheriff's Department. If any further concludes that criminal charges should be brought, I will take the recommendation seriously. Again, in the meantime, please take care and remain safe. And it was emailed to the Arkansas State Police in the Greene County Sheriff's Department. And so everybody since 2000, we thought they were doing their job until I got an incident report, and it started telling things that we know wasn't true. And I had a meeting with them in 2000 and in 20 May the 5th, and they couldn't answer any questions. And and how they got by with a lot of it, they worded that the report that Demarius James was spontaneous, that they didn't have to question him. He forced told them everything that they wanted to know. They didn't have to ask anything. His girlfriend was with him the night that he went up to the hospital, and they run her out of the hospital. They didn't want to question her at all.
They never questioned her. They never looked at any of the houses, the house that they lived in together.
The one that they stopped
the ones that they stopped, yeah. The ones that he named in his investigative interview. Blake's house, even. They didn't look at, Jim said they never came over your house.
They didn't look at anything.
They didn't investigate anything. I really think that they possibly had tunnel vision, possibly was protecting, it's a mix of both, protecting DJ and tunnel vision.
Well, here is if they would have went and investigated and searched the houses, they may have found, when they got home, he told her to clean up the blood before the cops get there, or he would do something to her too, and said that they was blood all over the floor, the walls, and the ceiling, and if she didn't clean it up, that he would hurt her too.
This is another thing too. We heard about Blake's head being damaged. We heard about it the next day.
Trauma
and Tony Williams was asked about that. Jim asked Tony Williams if this was true, and he said no, that's not true. Well, we just found out last year when we finally got Blake's full autopsy report through the having to file the FOIA. We couldn't get it up to then. That he did. He had a massive head wound. So
as far as Greene County goes, is this is an open case, or it's, what are they doing with it? I mean, I know they're not investigating.
Well, right now, what they're doing, they're playing the same game again. They're going to say, "Hey, this is an ongoing case, and we can't discuss it."
Right.
Is what it's going to, and that's what, we're back dealing with the same people, but the people, Snyder, which is the new sheriff, he worked for the Prairie Gould Police Department. He's already aware of all this and what's going on. The CID officer, Miss Thomas, I think her name, they are CID at Prairie Gould has already dealt with probably, I'll say, 10 cases where Demarius has assaulted people and everything already. We're not saying nothing that they don't already know. The city police, one of the guys that I know, give me some of the reports that was a public record of where he assaulted his girlfriend, and the mother went up there and complained with her, and they took pictures. The city police took pictures of his girlfriend with all the bruises all over her body, it says, where he had beat her with a pistol, and that he told her that if he had a bullet, he would kill her. And this is a convicted felon, terroristic threatening a woman. Now, this woman has got children. These children have to put up with this abuse and everything, and nobody is concerned. And I promised his girlfriend that I would get her protection, that the law would intervene in this, and I would get her protection for her and her kids, and she wouldn't have to worry about it. Well, the more I report about this, or Deborah or whatever, the more threats she gets, and the harder it's made on her, and she's scared to death, and she has a right to be.
Yes.
But I promised that woman I would get her help. I contacted Channel 8 News with letters, emails. Diana Davis is I've known her. She's been there in Channel 8 News for years. I wrote her two letters addressed to her personally. Not one time is that woman took 5 minutes to call and say, "Hey, can we help this woman? Can we help her kids? How's our kids doing?" Not one time has Channel 8 News contacted me back. Not one time. And I've called, I've left emails,
and I want to say too, DJ's whole interview with K8, where he was all bandaged up like a mummy, his ex-girlfriend
wrapped him up.
Is the one who wrapped him up like that. He was completely healed when he did this interview. This was all for show, to get the sympathies
and to hide from people that know that he's the one that was responsible with Blake's death.
Yeah. Okay, and we know this because 2 days before the interview, his mother posted on her Facebook praising God because he was completely healed. She showed the before pictures of him, and then she showed the after pictures.
Do you have
this was?
Yeah. And they were people.
Yeah, we have the pictures of all of this.
Yeah, and we have the pictures of where he's got his knees bandaged up from that night. But people, some of our friends had seen him over by a bar or a club days before this interview that he gave with the Channel 8 News, walking around over by this club with no bandage or nothing on him and everything. And but when he got on there, wrapped his whole head up like a mummy in this a little thing so he could look out, cut a little hole so they could look out and everything. But like I say, he's got that tattoo down the side of his face, uh, and anyway, hey, if you could help us, we appreciate it. And
she's getting our story out to everyone.
You know, hey,
what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take this live that we've done now, and a lot of people have been on during this time, off and on, but I'm gonna take this live. I'm gonna post the videos and stuff like that, and hopefully get the case more attention. I will say, I do think, I mean, like, I don't know that much about anything, but it seems like in the state of Arkansas right now, a lot of like the FBI is fixing a lot of the corruption issues, or investigating a lot of corruption issues within the county police departments, and maybe that would be the thing to do, to contact the FBI along with like Marshall Price's family and other families that have, experienced corruption at the hands of the Greene County Police Department Sheriff's Office, and get them to investigate it. I know it's not investigating directly Blake's case, but a win is a win at this point.
Right. Yep. Yes.
I mean,
I went to the Price's family's protest and went along with them at the sheriff's department, and wherever they protest at, I'll be there, and our family will be there to support them, and they have my phone number. Matter of fact, we've contacted with other people too that was out there.
Because if we could have done something with Blake's case, it infuriates me also, because Price may be here today if somebody would have done something about the corruption beforehand. I mean, Blake's case is nearly 4 years old.
If they would have held the law
accountable,
the sheriff's department and the city police department and the probation office, if they would have held them accountable, and by the law and by the oath that they took to uphold, this could have prevented even for Mr. Price being killed, because they would have been the laws, they would have been more strict, and they would have been people watching it. Hey, people don't care. They don't care unless it's their family.
Yeah,
that's right.
And
that's right.
But we could have saved some of this if the law would have been held accountable. They are so arrogant. They don't want to talk to you at any level, and the first thing they tell you, well, hey, they're not in. Hey, no, hey, we don't deal with that. You have to go to someone else. Hey, you got to go to that person. You got to go to this person, and nobody will contact you back. And then you'll go back the next day and hear the same thing again.
Right. I mean, what you've said in this entire case is very reminiscent of like several other cases. Like, I know Deborah's been in contact with Ashton Campbell's mom in that case out of Greene County. Olivia Soto was a 2-year-old who was murdered in Crawford County, and ironically, in that case, they charged the mom's boyfriend with murder. He wasn't even at the house at the time, but they charged him with murder. He went on trial. He was acquitted, but the mom took off to California. She could have, her interrogation or interview videos are available on YouTube, but she could have sat there and confessed to that crime, and they would have acted like they didn't hear her. And so she's hiding out in California now, which is, ironic, because you said Demarius James went to California. But it was almost like she was being protected, and now she has a podcast. Olivia Soto has a podcast. There is a podcast covering her case. But yeah, like, a lot of people wonder, is she a confidential informant? Like, why are they protecting her so much? Which, makes me wonder, why are they protecting Demarius James so much? In this case, like, is he a confidential informant? Is he just friends with them? Like, is it just because he's sold drugs for them? Which I absolutely believe that he has done those things. But like, why is it so much so that they're willing to go to so much effort to protect him from all these numerous crimes that he's committed?
Well,
And that's what,
but you're right. They are involved in so much. In right now, we could tell you about a woman that we know by what we've been told by our witnesses that she's dead. She was killed over, because of drug dealers. But we can't open up that right now because we got too much going until we can get someone to listen to us. And
right.
Yeah, we got to get Blake's case.
Yeah, and then we know of a man that was beat to death. Uh, and I mean, there's no doubt he was beat to death, and some people involved in that. But I mean, how many doors can you open? We can't even take care of what we're dealing with. But
Yeah.
there are other deaths uh, that our witnesses have told us and reported as things. And even if half of it is not completely true that people are telling us, if the other part of it is, a quarter of it is, well, then we know we got one dead body for sure, and
Right.
then and possibly a woman that nobody is even looking at. That law enforcement, the same law enforcement, has been involved in and allowed the woman to be beat up while they were standing on the outside of the building on the call. We have a, a deputy that beat his wife, and assaulted her and had a pistol. And the woman had a daughter. She told the same story. And the news media got to checking there at Greene County on this. And a judge or the court sealed the case. They was investigated, and now this guy is still in law enforcement and been promoted a few times. And some of his own deputies tried to get him prosecuted, and they shut him down, and they sealed the case because the news media got on it, and so they sealed the case, and that was as far as that could go.
Right.
In Greene County, the Greene County Sheriff's Department, the guy still, the last I heard, is still working out there at the Greene County Sheriff's Department. Some of the sheriff's deputies out there has sons that's alcoholic, or whatever you want to call it, that has got fired or had to resign from their duties in Jonesboro. The city police or the Jonesboro or Greene County Sheriff's Department hired them right away and put them back in there, and they were caught at other police agencies under the influence, driving the vehicle, the police vehicles. It's corrupt. It's corrupt.
Yes. Because it's just like I was saying, the whole thing, Arkansas, just so much of the state is that way. I don't know why it's that way. And I can't say that other states aren't that way because I don't live in another state, but Arkansas police are extremely corrupt. There are good officers, but their names are marked by so many bad ones that won't just do their job.
Well, what we in this, and I don't know how to say it without sounding rude or degrading, but our law enforcement that we're having in our area, or that are not they're not educated in the law. Is they're hiring their relatives, their friends to be in law enforcement.
Yeah, and Tony Hill have his state policeman Tony Hill having his office up there inside the Greene County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah,
to me, that just feels wrong. I feel like they've all become buddies.
Well, they have, and
fire again
but they're hard.
was
They're
very
hard.
little.
Yeah. Well, they're hard and they're friends and really, distant. In but anyway, and they're not educated in the law, that much. Uh, it,
Everybody dropped the ball on Blake's case. Even, I mean, the fire chief. We were told that he could have called in what the fire marshal.
Yeah, the fire chief
to investigate.
Yeah,
and he didn't. He
said the reason he didn't call in the state police because he figured that all the evidence had burned up. Well, that's not his call to on someone's or someone's death. Whether they, but nobody that worked our son's case was certified to work in house explosion. No one was certified to gather forensic evidence and everything. None of it. I talked to law enforcement that had more certifications than any of them out there, and that's the first thing they said. Well, that was out of their league. They should have called the state police in that was qualified to investigate a house explosion and arson in the body. There's nothing that shows that we have found that even our son's legs or arms were left in the fire. There's nothing that shows that they sent off Demarius James his clothes.
Yeah, and I want to add too, they test Blake for accelerants, 5 different types.
Yeah,
on the autopsy.
There was no accelerant found on our son. There was no drugs or alcohol in our son's system.
And they're saying still today that he was the one that did this.
And Demarius James's girlfriend said Demarius James had been drinking alcohol all that day. And now, nobody is saying that what Demarius James had in his. Nothing about Demarius James. Now, they did say in the report that they found 2 toes of a boot in the fire. But now, if they looks like to me, if they would have found, if it would have been our son's shoes, that there ought to have been some type of DNA in that. In that shoe, the part of that shoe, whatever they found, I would think, but I don't know, but I would think that they would have been able to. But there was no one that there's nothing. No ashes that I have read that there was ashes take or anything from the house that was sent off. I have from the crime lab. I haven't. There's nothing in there about that. But we do have ashes from the house ourselves and everything that we took personally ourselves and everything from each room of the house to see if we had to have it tested ourselves to see if they was accelerant or if he was talking about TNT explosive that day.
Demarius
Demarius James was in a text. The crime lab or the state police is trained to detect if they, the types of explosion, what made it and what it was, the temperature of what area was and everything. Nothing was done about that, and I know they wasn't because I asked Captain Tony Williams that was over the CID department at that time, and I'd go up there at least once a week or twice a week and ask, hey, has anybody checked anything? And he told me for almost a month, well, no, hey, we're waiting. The insurance company to come out and do their investigation, and we was going to work with them. And I know this went on for like a month. And I'd go up there, and he'd say, no, they haven't contacted us yet. As soon as they get into town, they're supposed to contact us. Well, nobody claimed the insurance money because it was who that small amount. who wanted that money that their son was burned up in if they stood there and watched the house burn? It wasn't about money, uh, because the people, uh, his mom and her new husband and all this and that and everything, they own their own airplane. They owned it, antique cars. $30,000 uh, is a lot to some people, but they have antique cars and stuff. That one of them, I mean, $30,000 to me is quite a bit of money, but they own more property and things that $30,000 wasn't going to change their life at
Well,
all.
we had more houses at the time also there in Paragould, and insurance on those other houses were more. So I don't know. Just
Well, they had
it disgusts me what she said, Shauna.
And the house that Shauna, my son's wife, and his mother-in-law, was telling people about a house that never, that wasn't even the house wasn't even in the same town. And then her mother-in-law, my son's mother-in-law, uh, told she had a friend that seen Demarius James running around the house, out at the house where the house burnt and everything.
Yeah, that lady hasn't been questioned.
Yeah, she hasn't been questioned. But they're telling the story that it happened in another town than where the house had burnt. That's where she seen Demarius when the house exploded. Mm-hmm. So we know that was a lie. But anyway, and they're trying to make it so that they could collect some insurance. But they thought and Shauna asked me several times, well, how much money do you think we'll get? Her and her family and everything. And I told them, I don't know. I don't, but anyway, because I sure didn't know nothing. I was at work and I thought I was talking to my son on the phone. The whole time I was talking to his wife and everything. And, but they had the wrong house. And even people at parties, the younger generation, everything, knowed that our son was dead in the house. That someone had called him earlier that night and reporting to them teenagers that that Blake was already dead in the house before even anybody knowed about it.
Yeah, kids at a party that night knew about Blake before any of us. None of them reported it. Just.
But anyway, it's. But if anybody wants to see what evidence we have, I'd be glad to show them. And I would, and if anybody can prove that I'm wrong, hey, please feel free to do it. I don't want anybody making an allegation to me. If they do, that's if they have an opinion. There's. I want proof. I want to see proof of what they can tell me because we have proof what we are saying 100%. And if someone has proof that they can show me that we're wrong, hey, I'll be glad to look at it. And I would appreciate any debate or
if somebody can help, wants to help.
Yes, or have information to help to solve this case. That's all we're asking. Good, bad, or ugly. Let's this is answered.
Absolutely. I hope that doing things like this bring attention to Blake's case so that you can have closure and justice. Demarius James shouldn't be around after everything that he's done anyway. Even outside of this, I mean, how many chances in life.
Well, now, even Demarius James told when my son first met him that he had stabbed a 17-year-old in the way that I was told that it happened up around in St. Louis or Chicago. And I was told the story about it, that he had stabbed this kid and made him drive down a country road. And they beat him up, stabbed him, and burnt the vehicle with gasoline, and that it burnt his body so bad in that car that they couldn't tell that the boy had been stabbed in his stomach. It burned his body so bad that they couldn't tell, and they ruled it as a suicide. And now that was a story. And when they were telling me that, when I was told that, I said, "Hey, I don't even want to hear it. I don't even, because I didn't know. When I didn't want to know the guy. I mean, and I didn't, and I didn't want to hear the story because I figured it was a lie. I didn't believe it and then other people come up was telling the same story, and then I told my son's mom about it, Deborah here, and then some of her friends that know Demarius James
told me, and I have the story on messages from one of the friends. Yeah.
And then
about this murder
yeah,
that's happened in Chicago that Demarius did. I have that story in message.
And then we have the story in a text where the mom on the Sidney Howard, when he got beat up, Sidney Howard's wife, they're a young couple, when Demarius and his friends come in there and beat him up, she went over to help her husband that was laying on the floor bleeding. Demarius James took a pistol, stuck to Sidney Howard's wife. His wife or girlfriend? It's his wife, I think. So, yeah, his wife. And stuck a pistol to her head and made her go back over and sit down and let her husband lay there on the floor and bleed.
Yeah.
But anyway, they put him in ICU. Well, the law enforcement, they were scared to tell what really happened because they know that they would Demarius's friends would come back and get them again. So they didn't tell the story like that. The wife told her friends what happened before the law got there and everything. And the law helped cover it up. And then
Sidney Howard is the one that we showed the picture of him in the chair a little bit ago in the hospital.
And then I called up CID, the Perryville CID, about what I was told, and they was quick to cover up, and come to the defense of Demarius James and everything. And even back to Blake's case back earlier, I got a hold of I believe it was Jonesboro Sun or Daily Press, whatever it was, but I think but anyway, the reporter, he contacts the state prosecuting attorney and friends with him, and the state prosecuting attorney would not contact this reporter back, and they were friends. They even had his own personal cell phones, and they were friends. And I've got the text message from the reporter telling me, hey, he is really disappointed in the state prosecuting attorney because he wouldn't return his call or review what he was saying. And but we have so many texts, and we still have the phone with all the text messages, the times that they were called. We keep it activated and keep it in a safe that it's we pay the monthly bill on it to keep it where it works, so that we have proof that where we have contacted and what we have said, what Captain Tony Williams' wife had been on the sheriff's department's phone, and her a city official, not anything to do with the county, which that's a violation. And but everything that we said, we have it in text messages. We got it copies, pictures of the text messages. We got the copies of the over 50 certified letters. In the way we understand it is, the post office keeps that copy of that certified mail that was sent and who signed it for, I say, like a year. I don't know how long they keep it, maybe longer. But in the signature for whoever received the letters, it's they return signature on all of it, so that they shows that they got it the day that they received it and everything. But like I say, it's a cover up, and they're people won't believe what we're saying until they see it and everything, and and we're not just making allegations,
Right.
and everything.
Yeah, people believe that police are as corrupt as they are.
No, and it's just like the man that Memphis that got beat up and killed by the 5 officers. People wouldn't have believed that would have happened the way that it happened. We even our family wants justice for the man and his family in Memphis. Right. They deserve it, but law enforcement is so arrogant, and even right here we have, and I don't want to take nothing from that man at Memphis or their family and say anything that would be disrespectful, but we have people in Arkansas calling and sending emails and letters to Memphis that won't even make a public statement in our own state, where it's happening in our own state, and they're acting like it don't happen in Arkansas. I don't want to take anything from the Memphis family or that man, but the people that are writing these letters know what's going on in Arkansas. It's not just in Greene County. We have people calling us all the time in other counties that their sons or daughters or family members have been killed by, around law enforcement. And they're writing and saying, well, hey, their agency, this and that. And I hope in their county that they do have good law. They've got to be some good law enforcement somewhere. Mm-hmm. In a good one in our area, they're not going to be in law enforcement or in the justice system because they're going to weed them out. They're not going to let someone that will talk up and say what's going on.
Well, what's wrong about this too is that the family for Tyree has got to see the video of what happened. Back to Marshall, his family's been waiting since December. They still haven't gotten the video. The Greene County still hasn't released. They don't. It's just not right. Greene County, Paragould, Arkansas Sheriff's Department jail should not be allowed to keep doing this to families. Like, somebody needs to stop them.
I agree. I mean, in Memphis, they released the video. They charged the officers within 2 weeks of what happened to Tyrese Nichols. But, in comparison to Arkansas and Crawford County, those 3 officers beat up that man, Randall Worcester, in August, and just last week the FBI decided to charge them. They have not been charged in the state of Arkansas yet. That case is still with the special prosecutor, who hasn't announced anything, and all these months have gone by. Arkansas is way behind. Memphis, I feel like they handled it the right way because they knew that there was going to be so much backlash if they didn't. But Arkansas, in comparison, doesn't care.
Yeah.
Right. And then they're making statements, all of these law enforcement counties in Arkansas, saying, that's so wrong what happened. This is not, I don't know. It's a slap in the face is what it is.
Well, this is the thing. We even had an attorney to file the Freedom of Information Act uh, for our family to the Greene County Sheriff's Department and the Arkansas State Police. Each one of them got a letter, the Freedom of Information Act. Did you know it was around a month before we heard anything about the Freedom of Information Act? And the way I understand it is, it's normally they turn it over within 3 to 5 days and everything. But now we never got it, and then it wasn't complete. It was uh, over half of the information that we know in the eyewitnesses. Done nothing of the reports was in there. Nothing about the Ford truck. Nothing about the gasoline. Nothing where they stopped. Nothing. So much that wasn't in the Freedom of Information Act that we requested. And our attorney requested everything that you could request. He requested it. And it took them a month for us to get some back. That gave them time to hide and cover up and allow them to do what they wanted to. Mm-hmm. And the county prosecutor sent me a letter and said, hey, that the sheriff department released everything that they had and was required to. It wasn't. They never thought, the sheriff's department, the state police, the prosecutors never thought that we would fight this case. They thought for 11 months, we thought they had done what they were supposed to do for 11 months. Right. And they did nothing until we got that Freedom of Information Act or the incident report that told some things that was just completely opposite. And we thought they had done everything they were supposed to. We thought they had contacted everybody they were supposed to. They hadn't contacted no one. And I checked with the Perryville Police Department several times. Stovall, the chief of police there, Captain McCain, several of them that I called and talked to, checked and double checked and made sure that no one requested. They accepted Demarius James coming into town if the sheriff's department would have requested it. And because there ain't but like 3 ways to come into Perryville, and they could have watched it, and they know who it was. Demarius James was.
Well, Demarius James claims that he left the house in order to get medical help, but we know today that that's not true because he didn't go straight to the hospital. He went home first.
He told me he went to other houses and everything, and they called him in a liar. They said, "Well, I thought your girlfriend lived over on Greg Drive." Well, yeah, she does. Well, and then they called him at. He even told them the houses that he went to, and they never went and checked nothing. And nobody searched. Nobody's nothing. If they had them, they may have found the house that had the blood in the wall, on the walls, the ceilings, and on the floor. And may have found it before all that got cleaned up. But they didn't do their job. They didn't investigate it to the fullest. In the Arkansas State Police, I was told, file something with the state prosecuting attorney. Captain Tony Williams with the Greene County Sheriff's Department told me, if you don't trust what we're doing, call the state police. Well, I called the state police. It didn't make any difference. It didn't make any. Captain Tony Williams knows when he told me to call the state police that I could not do anything with the state police. It had to be someone, a judge or a prosecutor or a coroner or the sheriff himself, someone like that, to request them to come in. And
which I don't believe that they've still done today. So we're hoping the new sheriff does something, but to me, it doesn't feel like it's going to be that way.
he's connected with the same people,
Right.
worked with the same people that we're dealing with all over again.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing the case. Hopefully, like I said, we could get it some attention that it needs and that Greene County needs right now to draw attention to the corruption and these cases that aren't getting the right attention or being, blown off and people getting away with murder.